Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be cutting up this ash tree that I took down back at the end of winter before the ground thawed out. It's going to put our sawmill not quite to its limits, but it's going to be the biggest thing we've thrown through it so far, being at least about 2 feet in its diameter back at the base where we're going to be cutting. But I want to show you guys this log, get it cut up today, get the anchor seal painted on the ends, and then here in a few days we'll go ahead and run it through the mill and see what we can get. Let's check it out. So as I said before, I took this down a couple months ago. Already cleaned up a lot of the little stuff, but I left anything I thought maybe it'd be worth running through the mill just to try and get a little bit off, or any of these pieces, of course, that are holding it up in place that I'll need to take down a little bit later. I should be able to get at least 2 really nice 10-foot sections out of this that I can run through the mill. That's the limit on it. We get 10-foot, 5-inch pieces we can get in there. And then coming down here to the base, you can see just how large this was. Certain measurements down here getting over the 30-inch limit that we've got. But given the quality of some of the wood down here, you can see, especially toward the sapwood, a lot more rotted, nicer stuff in the middle. I don't think we're going to lose a lot if we go ahead and take off the end here. So that's what I plan to do. I plan to go ahead and take off a 16-inch section for firewood, because you can see we've got some of that rot, some of the worst quality wood there. So not a whole lot of point in keeping any of that. Some of the heartwood would be okay, but it's also sat so long that it's been checking and splitting here at the end. So I plan to get a nice new fresh cut there, get that coated with the anchor seal. And then I think we'll get 2 nice 10-foot sections in here before we get into some of the smaller stuff that we'll figure out once we kind of know where we're going to land with those 10-foot sections. Don't have a full-on plan on exactly what we'll use all this wood for, but we'll kind of determine that once we see what kind of quality we've got in here. So let's get this diced up and get it painted, and here in a few days we'll throw it through the mill. All right, well, we've got it all cut up now. Here at the very base where I cut off just that 16 inches here, you can see we've still got some of that worse quality stuff out at the sapwood area, but some of this heartwood still looks like it might be all right, especially as we go further and further from the base. It should get a little bit better. Certainly a lot of this that we cut off isn't going to be as good, but could still be used for maybe some outdoor purposes. You could use that for raised beds, for stakes in the garden, stuff like that. And that's probably how we'll use a lot of it. But this stuff here in the middle should be pretty good and shouldn't really have any borers there. They usually don't last but a few years once borers get in there. But nice to see that. We got that as this nice 10-foot section here. I'll show you the top side of that, how that looks. You can see some of that is still all this distance here, but over here, not nearly as far of that waterlogged look. So got those ends there, and this would be the equivalent cut on this side. And this is another 10-foot section here. Gets us all the way out here. And you can see where it started to be a couple branches here that were growing together. So it might be interesting to see what that looks like under there. The next section, there's a lot of decay, especially in this area up here. And then certainly where these branches were coming out might have some interesting patterns. So we'll see how that turns out. But I went ahead and left it to a 10-foot section up to up here. So be interesting to get that in there, see how much we can get of a cut. Maybe at least a few pieces will go that whole distance, but not too sure yet on that. And then a final section out here that's not 10 foot, along with all the assorted other limbs that I might run some of them through. Other ones will go straight to firewood like this. I won't bother trying to make anything out of that. But I'm going to go ahead and get these painted, and in a couple days, once that's all dry, we'll run them through the mill. All right, well, I made my first nice cut into this. Got into some of this really pretty grain right here, especially up near the top like I expected. It's a lot nicer. You can see some of the damage just from it being up so long and kind of getting some of that water damage and some rot along the sapwood here. But the heartwood is definitely quite nice. So there'll be a lot to preserve, especially I'm thinking the section above this one. This was the very bottom of the trunk. So as you move down toward the bottom, it seems that the damage comes in quite a bit on the ends, moves its way in toward the center like I expected. But certainly we're gonna have plenty to work with here. Want to use some of this for some furniture projects, so not too worried about getting giant slabs out of this anyway. So the nice usable wood in the center here is really what I'm going for. Make it whatever size I need to make it usable. But really cool to see that even though this looks so bad on the outside, you know, where all that bark had been coming off and everything else, and certainly you can see where there had been some bug damage on the edges here, where those ash borers killed the tree. But on toward the center, a lot of that gorgeous stuff going on. So we'll cut a little further and see what else we find. You can see even nicer color in here, real pretty. Have a little bit of a bark inclusion over here, it looks like. There's a branch coming out there. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Well, it's been 3 nights. I did this cutting on Tuesday, and already here on Friday we've got quite a bit of a split coming through here in the middle. You can tell why Wood-Mizer advises just cutting the core out. So I'm gonna do some more cuts on this, see what we can get out of it. Hopefully there's not too much splitting in there, and get this end that I recut sealed up on each of the boards I make, and hopefully we'll get some good stuff out of this. So the earlier piece I cut is right here, and the one a little further in is right here. Cut this about 2.5 inches thick. Getting into the really nice stuff, I think, here. Really looking forward to making some things out of this. And if you look up here, this is what we've got. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip this over, get into that next bit underneath, and we'll see how this goes. All right, well, I think I got into some really good stuff on this side as well. Really pretty grains in here. So I think what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is get this cut, get the core cut out of it right here at the center, and then take what I can get on top and bottom, flip them over, and we're gonna go ahead and make our boards. So once the center section's out here, we'll take boards out this way once we flip this over. Well, it's getting dark, but I caught a couple 2x4s here and two 4x4s here. The rest of this here we'll go ahead and turn into 1x4s on another day. At this point, I think I'm going to make a bed frame for my oldest. We need those for slats, these for posts on the ends, and this here for some of the structure. So that's what I'm hoping to make from this, furniture grade wood. I'm going to go ahead and get it packed up for the night and park the mill because it could rain tonight. And I want to just get it out of the weather when I can. Alright, well, I just set up for another night of milling. I'm going to go ahead and try and run through these two larger sections here that I took off earlier on. I'm going to get them up sideways and then run through this way, try and make some thinner boards out of this. But this stuff is closer to the edge than some of those nicer boards that we were getting, so I'm not sure how good a quality these will be. But we'll go ahead and get those thrown on there and see if we can get anything good out of these. Taking a quick look here at some of what I've already cut into, you can definitely tell we've got something worthwhile in here at least. It may not be all the way to the edge, but it's definitely worth cutting. I'll probably make a couple more 1x4s here. This is a true 4-inch width here, and I can trim up the edges later with the table saw depending on how each board comes out. But I'm cutting these a little bit closer to 7/8 of an inch than the 3/4. So hopefully they're going to hold true to 3/4 inch when they finish drying. This is a 2x4 right here. Of course, some of it's not quite as nice up here, but for certain outdoor uses, it's going to be fine. And then here is that first 1x4 I made. Seems to be fairly nice, but I think the next few that I cut should be even better. Alright, now it's time to finish off this last section of log, especially with how much bark was cut into here. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot in there, but might as well throw it through, see what we can get out of it. It's a few inches thick, so there could be some good stuff in there. We'll just have to cut it and find out. So I went ahead and cut this as a 2x4. Obviously the by 4 is not done yet, but just trying to maybe see if I can get some outdoor use lumber out of it. There are some splits from when I tossed it off of the mill originally, and you can see some of that in here, but I think we're about to get past some of that at least. But that'll certainly limit what it could be used for. May only be good for pallet level or raised bed or less. So I don't think we're going to get a lot out of this. Might get a little bit more toward the center, but it just started to get a little bit better than firewood level, which is what I already threw off from there. So we'll see. We might get a slice or two out of here that are worth something, but right now, not so much. Well, as I'm sure you noticed, this last section definitely is the worst off as far as quality. A lot of these were just breaking as I even picked them up and set them down. A lot of rot right in here. A lot of water damage that had happened. So these aren't really going to be worth anything. Probably just cut them up for firewood. Maybe a few of these sections here I could do something outdoors with. The only two I did have that worked out at full length without breaking themselves apart were this approximately this 2x4. I haven't measured the exact width here. This is just what it was before I cut it up, but I did cut it to 1.5 inches in width. And then this one I cut to 3/4 inch, and it held together even though I was putting some pressure on it trying to bow it, and it held up to that. So, you know, 2 boards that at least have some good outdoor use, and then some others that we'll see, maybe some garden bed ends or something, but definitely not anything structural, that's for sure. And really these other two, I don't think I'd trust them for anything structural either. Certainly not nice enough to be indoors. So certainly that's what you get for having some bug damage on the outer bits here the last several years of its life, and then the water damage as it was starting to rot and turn bad in there. Didn't expect a whole lot out of the outer stuff. The Heartwood's what I was really here for. So overall, was this section worth cutting? I think so, because I think it gave me some good experience here. Got to really understand what the wood quality needs to be in order to even hold together, let alone be useful wood. The Heartwood, certainly good, so it wasn't worth cutting down the tree entirely. But certainly we'd get a lot higher quality stuff if we cut it a lot sooner to the day it died. It did die probably 3 years ago. The last few leaves stopped coming on, and even that year it barely put any on, and they were dead by summer. If you have any ash you're trying to take out, recommend get them before they're dead, and you'll probably have a lot better luck with the wood you'll get out of them. Even if you're just using them for firewood, the quality of that's going to be a lot better if you take it down early. Well, I haven't finished cutting everything all the way that I want to, but as far as milling it, I'm done, and the rest will go through the table saw. But I'll show you what I've got stacked up in the shed. Alright, well here's all the lumber that we were able to make. These top ones will still need to be cut through a little bit more. They are just those large blocks like that one on top. Down below we've got at the very bottom 2 2x4s and 2 4x4s going the whole length. But after that, all these are just those larger blocks like the top. So we'll definitely run those through the table saw once these all have dried out a little bit. And then out here in the front, we've got a lot of those smaller pieces that we were making. I made all the bows in the middle, so that way adding weight to the center would help keep these all flat. Hopefully we'll have some nice square lumber whenever this all said and done. And here is our first dull blade, hopefully first of many to come. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure and subscribe and stick around for videos that are yet to come. And if you enjoyed this, be sure and check out this video next. Thanks for watching.